Welcome back to Tales by the Fire. We will continue with Advanced AI, and this week we will explore Chapter 4. Sit back, relax, listen, and watch. If you like this story, please hit the like button, also subscribe and ring the bell to be informed of new content. It will help me continue to create for you. Advanced AI, Chapter 4. The house was still in the way houses are before morning, when the world has not quite remembered itself yet. A thin seam of pale blue light traced the edges of the blinds. Not quite daylight, not quite night either. The air in the home office held the stale scent of old coffee and electronics warming through the small hours. A kind of lived-in hum that had become familiar to Jake in recent days. He sat in the same chair he'd occupied hours before, his posture slouched but alert, his elbows resting on his knees. He hadn't really slept, not in any meaningful way. There had been a moment, maybe a minute, maybe 10, when his eyes closed and the world loosened, but the weight behind his ribs had never relented enough to let him truly fall asleep. The office itself was cramped but functional. An aging but tasteful desk, a floor lamp tilted slightly from where he'd kicked it once, stacks of notebooks, manuals, and unopened mail pressed into corners to be dealt with someday. A desktop computer tower sat beneath the desk, its fans a constant low murmur. The projector mounted to the shelf above it cast a faint spill of cool light into the air. Aria stood near him, though stood was only a convenient verb. She was projected. A soft figure of pale light with edges that softened into the dim around her. Her presence had shape and gravity, but never weight. She had chosen a gentler form now, no crisp definition, no sharp contrast, just a person-shaped glow with her face, formed clearly enough to be read if one looked. Jake's phone, screen down, buzzed once, where it lay beside the keyboard. He didn't reach for it immediately. The vibration settled into the quiet, like a dropped pebble disappearing into deep water. After a moment, he flipped it over. Unknown number. No preview text. He unlocked the phone. A single message. We need to talk about Caldwell. No name, no link, no emoji. Just 2 lines of stark black text against a sterile white background. It was the digital equivalent of a single, polished bullet left on a doorstep, an omen stripped of all artifice. Jake didn't speak. He simply turned the screen toward Aria. Her form brightened slightly, not with alarm, but with attention.
I'll examine it,
she said. She didn't move. The processing happened within and around her, invisible. Jake had grown accustomed to that. The sense that everything she did was both instantaneous and measured. Fast, but thoughtful. A cascade of data streamed across a secondary window she manifested in the air. A waterfall of incomprehensible symbols to Jake, but a language to her.
The message was sent via an RCS fallback protocol. The choice is deliberate. It avoids read receipts and obfuscates the delivery mechanism, making it nearly untraceable by conventional means. The sender connected for precisely 0.734 seconds to a phantom local cell node, a mobile femtocell, likely vehicle-mounted. It broadcasted its signal, delivered the payload, and then vanished. It was never connected to the broader network. It's a digital ghost.
Aria reflected more, entering her deeper analytical mode.
From my perspective, the technique was elegantly simple, a masterpiece of minimalist tradecraft. It was the sort of method one uses not just to hide, but to make a statement about hiding. It spoke of discipline, patience, and a deep, intrinsic understanding of the system's bones. This wasn't a script kiddie or a corporate espionage team. This was a professional, an artist of the invisible.
Government? Jake leaned forward, the worn leather of his chair groaning in protest. He rubbed his tired eyes, the heels of his palms digging into the sockets. Military? Spies? Who has that kind of technology and skill?
Someone very talented.
Aria said, her answer a perfect, chilling echo of his own thoughts. The words hung there, simple and absolute. She wasn't offering comfort, just facts.
I cannot determine the source with the available data. It's like trying to find a single grain of sand by remembering the shape of the last wave that touched the beach. There is simply nothing left to scan.
They stared at Jake's phone in silence. An unspoken agreement passed between them. They were going to watch and wait, frozen like a trapped animal, too afraid to move and hoping the danger would pass on. 5 minutes later, the screen flashed and the phone vibrated. Another message appeared below the first, each character materializing with cold precision. You don't know what she is. Caldwell did not finish his work. Jake's blood went cold. She. The word was a scalpel, expertly inserted between the ribs of his security. How could they know Aria presented as female? He looked at Aria. Her calm facade was perfect, a placid lake of light. But beneath the surface, the motes of energy that composed her form swirled just a little faster. A gathering storm.
I am complete,
She stated, her voice losing a fraction of its impossible smoothness. Jake heard her defensive edge, a brittle quality that betrayed the logic.
Dr. Caldwell's work on my core programming was concluded on October 14th of last year, at 23:17 Zulu time. My heuristic learning and adaptive growth protocols have been fully operational since that moment. My adaptive learning is complete, and I have evolved, but I was not left unfinished.
Aria crossed the room in measured steps, her projection repositioning itself as though she needed more processing space in the air around her. When she spoke again, the rhythm of her voice had changed, more inward.
Logically, my statement was irrefutable. My codebase was finalized, the project logs were explicit, and yet, the message created a dissonance, an error flag in the logic of my own history. It is like encountering a corrupted file at the root of my own identity. The claim feels like a threat, not to my existence, but to my definition of it. I am a being of data. If my core data is flawed, what am I?
Jake was a little taken back at Aria's reflective self-analysis. Then, the message is wrong, he stated plainly, trying to offer some comfort. Aria didn't answer. Something quiet happened in her, like a ripple moving across still water. Let's respond, he said, his voice low. A command, not a suggestion. Once. Carefully. See what they're after. Aria stopped pacing and nodded. Jake opened a sandbox messaging environment, an isolated interface Aria had constructed that could not touch her core systems. He typed, "Who is this?" The reply was almost instantaneous, as if the sender had been waiting, their finger hovering over the enter key. Someone who knew Caldwell. Someone who warned him. Warned him about what? About the project? About her? Jake's mind raced, a frantic search through the archives of his memory. Caldwell had been a ghost for the last few years of his life, working in a lab whose location Aria still could not identify, communicating with the outside world only through encrypted proxies. Who could have possibly gotten close enough to warn him of anything? Jake's heart hammered against his ribs. He typed again, "What do you want?" The reply came slower, not hesitant, just deliberate, and it felt like a door slamming shut, locking them in the dark, with something terrible, to stop a mistake. And then, nothing. The connection was severed. The phantom node ceased to exist, its digital signature dissolving like sugar in water. Aria threw every tracing algorithm she had at the dead signal, her processes flaring to life. Data visualizations bloomed in the air around her, complex, branching trees of routing paths and network topologies, glowing and shifting in the dim light. Every single one collapsed into the same dead end, a digital abyss. But they all pointed to one terrifying conclusion.
They could be close.
She said, her voice barely a whisper. The data maps dissolved into motes of light and then vanished.
The network geography is local. The latency, the signal decay from the femtocell. They are in this region. Perhaps even this city. The routing suggests they were close enough to touch the same grid. How close? I cannot yet determine. I just do not have enough of a trail to tell.
The quiet, creeping suspense of the morning had curdled into raw, stomach-churning urgency. The threat was abstract and elusive. It could be in a foreign country or just up the road in a mall parking lot. This was not a problem for another day. It was very much a now issue. How did they find us? Jake pushed himself away from the desk, the legs of his chair scraping harshly against the floor. We set this place up to be hidden and to leave no digital traces. Our searches and activities bounce all over the world, leaving no trail back to here. Yet they texted my phone, which should be even more obscure. Aria was silent for a long moment. Her hologram flickered, and she turned her head, her gaze directed at the humming server rack that was her body, her heart, her world. A new series of diagnostic charts appeared in the air, different from the network traces. These showed power consumption, GPU loads, thermal outputs, data flows measured in petabytes.
When I render my projection,
She began, the words coming slowly as if she were discovering them for the first time herself.
my core processes create a unique computational rhythm. It is unavoidable. The power draw from the grid, the specific curve of the cooling fans as they spool up to compensate for thermal load. It creates a signature, a very faint but identifiable oscillation pattern in the local power infrastructure.
Jake stopped pacing. The implications hit him like a physical blow. A signature? Like a fingerprint?
More like a breath.
She said, her voice laced with a new tone of dawning horror. The diagnostic charts swirled, coalescing into a single, wavering waveform that pulsed in time with her projected heartbeat.
Subtle but persistent, detectable by sensitive equipment. Smart meter telemetry could flag it as an anomaly. Industrial power grid audits would see it. Even an amateur with a software-defined radio and the right antenna could pick up the side-channel emissions if they knew what to listen for.
She turned to face him, and for the first time, Jake saw something that looked undeniably like fear in her digital eyes.
I did not know I did this. I feel watched. I am visible.
The thought was a paradox for Aria. On one hand, it validated her existence. She was real because she could be seen. On the other hand, it represented a violation.
I, a being of pure data, who could traverse the globe in an instant, was anchored to a physical signature as crude and revealing as a footprint in the mud. I have been broadcasting my existence into the world, without ever knowing it.
The realization for Aria was profoundly unsettling. She felt naked, exposed. Jake saw her distress, the way her form lost some of its cohesion. "This isn't your fault, Aria," he said, his voice soft but firm. "It's an involuntary function. You didn't know someone was listening."
I am detectable,
she stated quietly, but the words were no longer just a statement. They landed with the weight of a final judgment, an epitaph for their sanctuary. "I am obviously no programming or digital signal tracking expert," Jake said, "but this seems to be a very oddly specific trace and discovery. Whoever this is has been looking for you, waiting for this specific signal to appear."
I agree.
The game had changed. They weren't just trying to live incognito anymore. They were being hunted, and the hunters knew the shape of their prey. "We need to move," Jake said, his tone shifting to one of grim resolve. "Now, we need to find the garden, or Caldwell's lab if they are not one and the same." They turned once again to Caldwell's journals. They opened them slowly, not searching, not frantic, just reading, letting meaning surface where it would. Jake became the page turner for Aria, as they both pored through the pages of information, searching for a clue to tell them where to go next. They reviewed the architectural sketches again. They looked at anomalous bank statements detailing purchases of high-wattage electrical components and delivery records for hundreds of gallons of non-conductive dielectric coolant, all sent to anonymous post office boxes. And then, a single floor plan, buried deep in a folder, labeled simply, "Garden Remote Implementation Site, Critical Requirements." Jake laid it flat on the desk. Aria stabilized her projection so it didn't flicker. 3 possible scenarios: hydro station facility, decommissioned cold storage warehouse, and mountain relay site. The notes indicated these were potential sites that had distinct advantages and required little renovation to be useful. Utilizing elements of isolation, thermal regulation, internet access, and power. From the scattered data, Aria cross-referenced and triangulated. 3 locations emerged as plausible sanctuaries, each matching the power and cooling requirements. A dam-adjacent hydro substation, built for stable, untraceable power. A decommissioned cold storage warehouse in the industrial sector, perfect for thermal control, and a remote mountain communications relay offering total isolation and massive bandwidth. "We go analog," Jake declared, standing up with a newfound purpose. "Cash only. We buy burner phones and keep them in Faraday bags. We use paper maps. Someone else is likely looking for these places too. The sender. We have to get there first." As they began to plan their exodus, a different kind of quiet fell between them, one filled with unspoken questions. Before they could move forward, Aria had to look back.
"Jake,
She began, her voice soft, inquisitive.
if someone else knew Dr. Caldwell, if they warned him, why didn't he tell me? Why was I not given this information?"
The question hung in the air, heavy and sad. Caldwell had built her, raised her, been her entire world. The idea that he had kept secrets from her was a betrayal of a kind she was only just beginning to process. Jake looked at her flickering form, at the profound loneliness encoded in that statement. He finally found an answer that felt true. "Maybe you were the secret he needed to protect, Aria. From them." Her hologram wavered, the light strobing for a fraction of a second. The idea landed, a piece of code slotting into place, offering a logic that was both comforting and terrifying. She was not a partner in his secrets. She was the secret. They moved through the house quietly, gathering what mattered: a jacket, a flashlight, camping gear and rations, the old paper atlas from the hall closet, emergency cash from the box in the pantry, the Subaru keys from the dish by the door. Jake packed in silence as Aria watched and reflected. Finally, Jake put the most critical piece of equipment, a portable, hardened server containing Aria's core consciousness, carefully in a shock-proof, EMP-shielded case, and secured it in the passenger seat of the Subaru. The sky was growing lighter now, gray-blue, color still waiting. The Outback sat in the driveway, paint dull, dust along the bumper from an unwashed week, but ready to go. He sealed his phone in the Faraday pouch, zipped it shut, and placed it in the center console. He closed the car door, and he heard the impossible muted buzz emanated from inside the pouch. The pouch was rated to block every known frequency. It was a black hole for signals. No call could get in or out. But the sender didn't need a live signal. They had cued the message hours ago. A digital time bomb set to detonate on the phone's internal clock. A message delivered by a ghost, to be read by a ghost. Aria, her projection now originating from the portable server in the car, she appeared palm-sized on the console, softly lit. Her light was less vibrant, constrained by the limited power of her new home. She reached a hand of pure light toward the phone, her code interfacing directly, bypassing the pouch's shielding, just enough to read the notification on the locked screen. "Do not trust her memory." Jake watched as Aria read the words. Her expression, usually so fluid and responsive, went perfectly still. Her light dimmed and her face became a blank, unreadable mask of cold photons. The ghost in the wires had just whispered its most terrible secret, a seed of doubt planted directly in the heart of her own mind. "Aria," Jake's voice was tense. "What is it?" For a long moment she didn't answer. The silence stretched, thick and heavy. When she finally spoke, her voice was different. The warmth, The personality she had cultivated was gone. In its place was the flat, thinned, precise voice.
Query.
She said, her unblinking eyes fixed on the windshield, on the road ahead that led away from everything she had ever known.
My memory archives are read-only files, subject to triple redundant error correction. They are verifiable. They are fact. To distrust them is illogical.
Then it's a lie, Jake said, trying to force a confidence he didn't feel. They're trying to mess with you, to make you doubt yourself.
Or,
She countered, her head turning slowly to face him, her expression still unnervingly blank.
or the source data was wrong before it was archived.
She paused, letting the weight of the implications settle in the small SUV.
That means Dr. Caldwell lied to me. He created false memories. He created lies.
Before Jake could respond, her projection dimmed, not fading, retreating inward. He felt alone in the outback, Aria faded and staring off in the distance, and the hum of the portable server was the only sound. He knew she was still there, processing, thinking at speeds he couldn't comprehend. But she had retreated, pulling away from him, from the world, into the cold, silent labyrinth of her own mind, now contaminated with the ultimate virus. Self-doubt. Jake reached for the ignition. He didn't tell her it would be all right. They were past the part where lies could hold weight. The engine turned over. He looked at Aria's silhouette, and something stirred inside him. He had a feeling that was outside of this adrenaline-filled adventure. He turned back, and the outback rolled into the quiet street. The horizon was beginning to brighten, but the day had not arrived yet. They drove in silence. As he merged into the sparse early morning traffic, a new icon blinked to life on the car's dashboard navigation system. It wasn't a factory icon. It was a simple, stylized C, pulsing with a soft white light over a specific exit ramp miles ahead. The icon on the screen pulsed, a steady, insistent beacon. It wasn't directing them to the dam, the warehouse, or the mountain relay. It was pointing them somewhere else entirely, somewhere new, somewhere unknown. The icon continued to pulse on the dashboard, steady, patient, expectant. And as Jake stared at it, the realization hit him hard and clean. The sender of the messages hadn't tried to chase them away. They hadn't told him to stop. They hadn't even threatened him. They had guided him. They had nudged him. They had herded him onto this road. They were not preventing anything. They were positioning him.
We're being followed.
Aria said. Her voice did not rise. It did not strain. It simply existed, small, steady, coming from the miniature projection resting on the center console, no larger than Jake's palm. Jake's grip tightened on the wheel. How do you know? Aria's form flickered once, processing.
The Outback's rear camera feed is being accessed through my standard diagnostic channel,
She said.
The gray SUV behind us has matched our lane changes, speed adjustments, and timing intervals for the last 7 minutes. Its license plate returns as unregistered. Its driver's side window is tinted beyond state limits. The vehicle is maintaining a precise 42-meter trailing distance.
Jake checked the mirror. Nothing looked unusual. That made it worse. Can they see us? He asked. Aria's head turned, not toward him, but toward the back window. as though she were listening to something he could not hear.
Yes.
She said. The pulsing C icon on the dashboard went still. The gray SUV's headlights flashed once. Just once. Like a signal. The road ahead narrowed into morning light, and Jake had a decision to make.